Hello and welcome to another Best Junglers episode, this one for patch 13.13, rest in peace that Star Wars game. And a lot of you will be wondering because hey, they nerfed Kindred, they nerfed Rek'Sai, they buffed Nidalee and Lee Sin. Will this change the meta as we head towards the end of Split 1 of Season 13? After such radical changes, sometimes it takes things time to stabilize, and of course they fluctuate up and down. And with all the items still being adjusted and touched, there will be that volatility still. I shall go over the best junglers for every single MMR, including the low MMR and high MMR sections as well. And the best way to stay on top of the new builds is to use the Mobalytics 2.0 build feature. It's faster, it's more accurate, and while most sites just assess the items individually, Mobalytics now assesses them as part of a build, so it's way more accurate and reflective of how good they are. You can't just show a third item and say look at the win rate when you have no idea what the first two items were. All of this updated and pushed live to the companion app where you can put it directly into your client, along with all of the pre-game tips, post-game tips, as well as in-game tips such as itemization notification, level spike awareness, tips on how to play your champion, how to counter the enemy team composition. So if you want to dominate on the best junglers in the best way with all of the best information and keep up to date with all of the new itemization changes as the meta develops, click the link in the description below to download Mobalytics today. And now we head onto the S tier page. Number 1, still Kindred. When they brought forth those nerfs, I tweeted sarcastically, oh no, they're ruined. And all the Kindred 1 tricks were laughing out loud saying, you know what, if you're good and you can tank the camps appropriately and you're not being surprised by enemy jungle pathing, and because you Kindred you shouldn't be, those changes won't do very much. A little bit of a tickle for the bad Kindreds who go into melee range, who are surprised, who take fights they shouldn't anyway, who can't clear properly, but overall Kindred is still absolutely the best jungler in the game if you have the right hands, the right jungle knowledge, and perhaps have taken 1 or 2 Virkayu to GG courses. Other than that, please think very deeply about not letting the mini-game compromise your actual game plan. And in the video released yesterday, yes, that's right, 2 videos in 2 days, who am I? You would have noticed a Kindred compromised a huge tempo play over the enemy jungler in order to get a scuttle grab, and thus lost that lead, and the enemy jungler played it properly and got the bottom lane snowballing. You can guess who won. So as always, keep that in mind when you're playing Kindred, hyper-aggressive, carnivorous. Yes, you scale, but you scale through snowballing. You don't scale just by existing and taking a few marks here and there. And likewise, when you nerf things like AD growth and base AD, you typically have champions go down quite a few percentage, most notably the Graves AD nerf a couple years ago. However, in this particular case, Rek'Sai was so damn strong, surprisingly not hotfixed, that now instead of being Z tier Giga OP must ban, she's just atop the S tier page as Giga strong. Even worse in high elo actually, but overall the nerf, yes, it does affect you. Yes, damage profiles always shift when you remove things from clears, from trades, from early skirmishing. Yes, HP is important when you have, 40 removed from your first clears, and again, you're trading and gankings. But overall, if you're doing this much damage, if that rework is so good as it was, those things are just going to tickle you back into reality, but there really is nothing stopping this champion from 1v9ing, climbing, thriving, and making a lot of weird noises. Thirdly, we have Rengar, and everyone said stop. That Essence Reaver nerf destroyed him. He's ruined. They come into the Discord. They complain, what are we going to do now? They did the same to Stormrazor. Guys, relax. Rengar is always and has always and will always have been the best skill issue based jungler in the game. Aside from Nidalee. He has build versatility, he's still super duper strong, and guess what? A more base AD early focused item is not so bad for a champion who has a bone tooth necklace, scales hard anyway, and was overkilling people as it was. Yeah, you lose a little bit of that late game factor as they were talking about, but who really cares? Because if the difference between an Essence Reaver this patch and last patch is the reason you lose, then you weren't really that good with him in the first place. Now, I'm not saying you don't notice these sorts of changes, you really do when you know your champion. I fully agree that you will feel it, the spikes will be different, but there's nothing that's going to stop you from winning, climbing, and destroying everybody, and ADCs, and Yumis. And if you happen to be one of those people who doesn't like watching your Yumis and ADCs and Enchanters be destroyed by assassins, which is a little sacrilegious, but I'll allow it because Ivern is still really strong as well. And even though they nerfed the bonus damage on hit and kind of curbed Daisy a little bit because she really was an isolated champion by herself at this stage, it's not gonna really change that much from the quality of life and huge mini rework changes that they gave last patch. He is absolutely still super strong, and when you have big assassins and strong champions that are trying to kill your ADCs and main carry champions, you will be right there to stun, disrupt, shield, give some extra damage yourself, and then let Daisy go to work. He is the Janna of the jungle. Yes, we have seen some carry builds using that sort of damage on hit AP ratio, but overall, play him supportive, play the win con, play the pathing game, mind game everyone else with your unique first rotations and counter jungling possibilities, and then with a big creepy psychopathic smile on your face, let them know how happy you are about your victory. Following this with Nidalee, who got a base movement speed increase of +5. And for those of you who know the old curse words from the League Reddit, that was a total 5M buff. I'm sorry you had to hear that, but basically there's a challenge that Nidalee made in my Discord and we had a chat about this. He said, what do you think about these buffs? I said, They seem unnecessary. He said, but he needs them against the Rek'Sais and the Rengars. I said, do you really need 5 movement speed? He played a sad Pepe ukulele emote, and then this patch posted 1 million wins in a row, and I said, it's unnecessary, right? And he said, yeah, it's unnecessary. But he was very happy about it, I can tell you that much. She's hard, she's skillful, she's not going to scale very classically into those team fights whatsoever. Aggressive, invades, tempo, suppression, denial. If you're not 4 levels up on enemy junglers and destroying them, what are you doing? Following her, we have Kha'Zix, who is still an S-tier champion and very strong, deserves to be higher. He just has a few counters, and you see them above you. So pay attention to what you ban, make sure you ban the thing you hate the most, and make sure you have the right pathing mechanisms. A lot of my videos in the last few weeks have been about the first 10 minutes, focusing on these pathing mind games, advanced practices, getting yourself ahead, and then how to use that appropriately. There's nothing more important on something like Kha'Zix and Rengars who can snowball so damn heavily to get that right in the first 5 to 10 minutes. If you do, and you build correctly and you evolve correctly, the world is your oyster, or whatever the hell he's drooling out of his mouth. Following him, we have her, the Evelynn, queen of the invisibility matrix and cheesing bot laners between the brushes as they come back from base. It has been absolutely fascinating. Watch this champion be strong for the whole season, no nerfs, keep indirectly buffing her items and her. And anyone who mains his champion or smurfs with his champion is just saying, okay, I guess I'll keep going. Obviously, Rengars are not that great. Obviously, Rek'Sais are not that great. Unfortunately, a ban button can take care of a lot of it, and good pathing and, getting ahead is, again, one of those things you can use as a tool in your belt. If you're just trying to brute force everything, then don't play Evelynn. While she will lack the tower hitting, split pushing component, that means you have to do your number 1 job, prevent team fights from ever happening, because they only ever have 4 people, 3 people on the map. That means you get in deep, you do the void stuff, and you win games. Hecarim doesn't require those things. In fact, he doesn't require 1 neuron to operate. You farm, you sequence, you rotate, you do a few ganks before and after, you hit 6, you ult somebody, you dominate the game. Now yes, you can be an assassination Hecarim as the best solo queue build, which of course is what I recommend, but that means you have to play him like a Kha'Zix, like a Rengar. If you're gonna go in and they have CC and peel, and you go in by yourself, you will die. You have to have the right moment to press that E and to press that Ghost. Likewise, don't go Divine Sundra like they do in Korea. You're snowballing and you build Divine Sundra. That doesn't make sense. Go Lethality. One-shot everybody, and then you don't have to worry about the team fights because you're closing at 3 items. Regardless, in most MMRs where laners will not respect you, where most junglers will not respect you, as long as you've got that good template of clears and you play really intelligently as a jungler. I do love watching a good Hecarim play as a good jungler. Then you will climb. It's not the champion that's going to stop you, I can guarantee you that much. And now we shift on over to the A tier page and we start with Yarvan IV, Creator Maker. So unassuming, isn't he? His win rate is so good, his itemization is so diverse, lethality, Gold Drinker, you got Black Cleaver, you got the Sterix, you got the Stoneplate, you got the GA, you got more Death Dance, whatever the hell basically from the fighter itemization you want you can build. Early ganks, full clears, cheese invades, counter ganks, team fighting. This is the avatar of what a jungler needs to be if you want to be really, really boring, but win, of course. Next, we have Graves, who is very, very OP depending on who you speak to and or maybe don't speak to. As I've always said, this is the map control jungler for carry-orientated players. If you understand what prio is, counter jungling, counter ganks, if you understand entirely tempo control and have a good relationship with it, but you don't want to play Kindred, obviously, Kindred counters you. You don't play Nidalee because why do that when you can play Graves? You have to be a vacuum. Whatever is given to you by the map, you take it all. And whatever the enemy jungler decides not to take, you take that as well. He is the definition of oppressive jungling. Following this, we have Kayn, who some people sleep on, and I never understand why. It's 3 champions in 1. You adapt to your comp, you build correctly. Maybe you mishmash if you've been playing this champion a long time, but again, not everyone can do the charismite tech. I would make sure you're focusing on how to play Blue Kayn first, how to play Ross first, and then mix and match once you've got those things down. Because understanding when to pick blue, when to pick red, and playing them to their best ability, well, that should just get you to diamond even by accident. And yes, it depends on your team fighting and your jungle ability, but the champion will not be the issue. Next up, we have Fiddlesticks, the eternal one-trick god mode, inflating everyone since 2K20. Just kidding, you're not really inflated, but no one really seems to care what you do or how you do, and I've never seen a champion that's just not considered by matchups, that's just not considered by Riot. If you one-trick this, it's like you go to the corner, you're enjoying yourself, having a wonderful life, you're rich but not famous, and you get a lot of suck. Following Spaghetti Face, we have Spaghetti Brains over here, Viego. As is always a struggle with Viego mains to pick the right items and sort of rejecting things like Kraken and Trinity Force. But if we were to talk about the champion for a second, yes, he has been stronger, but no, he is still not something that is not going to let you climb. If you're a good Viego and you understand how to play the forms you get, as you would have seen in my recent video as well showing Viego playing, there is so much you can do with the champion still in terms of controlling the game. Just don't be that blindfold clearer. If you simply try to be active in the right way and play the game the right way, this champion is absolutely fine. And by fine, I mean pretty damn good. Skill issue, right? Now these next 3 can really be subjective a little bit when you get to this point in making a tier list. And you know, the data will tell you one story, but you also have to factor in your ability to diagnose which junglers are really the best. And in this case, Udyr still remains one of the best. The guy still does everything you want. Yeah, he isn't as unkillable tanky with unkillable damage, whatever that means. He is still something that's serviceable, reliable, map control the AFK farm and scale, and he duels so well with 2 to 3 items. Again, you control so much with the champion. People just sleep on it. I think they're a little bored of it, but there's nothing wrong with him. Likewise, Nocturne is one that I'm putting here just because he's so damn good and overpowered in low elo for the last few patches. But he also does really, really well in the mid MMRs up until Diamond. And hell yeah, he falls off a little bit as you get up to the higher elo echelons. That's largely because he's quite binary and predictable and people can play around it. If you're smurfing the map accordingly, playing around your 6 in the right way, and knowing which champions you can duel with your lethal tempo as well as spell shield, and of course not building 2 flying pigeon, you know, Duskblade, Axioma, kind of just go in and explode, the champion still serves up some good LP dish. Much like Karthus, who is really a flex pick between bottom lane and mid lane, very strong, but you can also take him jungle, of course, so 3 ways. You can actually queue him top also. That last chapter buff we got a couple patches ago really did a huge amount of work in terms of that early spike and ability to stay on the field. And remember, when a champion scales so quickly with his farming from Gromp, Wolves, Raptors, Krugs, he has a lot of downtime to do a lot of things. He has more room for activities, like counter jungling and invading you, but he can do that at level 3, level 4. You're level 3, he's level 4. Doing heralds and dragons. Really, when you are filled with so much time, you realize how much faster he clears than other junglers. And with that, we go to the low elo page where time is a thing we like to waste a lot. And these champions right here, from Nocturne all the way down to Kayn, will force you either to not waste it as much, or even though you do waste it, it won't matter. Amumu, Rammus, Jarvan, Lilia is looking really good for this MMR. Warwick is looking better this patch as well. And of course, Hecarim. While the meta seemingly is way more skill focused at the moment, high elo focused champions, as you would have noticed, these champions are still much easier to use and will carry you all the way to Diamond with absolutely no issue. The things they allow you to do are either dominate those team fights or have some sort of macro split pressure. You want to be able to have those things in low elo because your teammates are about as necessary as a third armpit, and you have to play with them and try and carry them. These champions allow you to do it. It's not saying that you can't have fun with them, you can, and yes, I understand you want to play other things, but focus on the jungling, the improvement, and getting gold before the end of split 1 before focusing on, doing your Graves and your Nidalee. And now we go over to the high elo page, which will represent mostly the S tier page we saw at the front of the video, but in this case we obviously have the Graves and the Lee Sin showing up in a bit higher position. Lee Sin buffs are really nice, the bonus AD ratio is great. I made a video about it on my gameplay channel yesterday. It showcases that you can actually go things like your Duskblade for better spiking and better snowballing, but even simply having that Gold Drinker go a little bit further as you scale is always going to be nice. And while his win rate did go up, it still isn't high enough for me to say, hey, look at this OP champion, because usually when that's the case and he's 50% plus win rate, he typically needs to be nerfed. So this is kind of the zone you actually want him to be in if you're a Lee Sin main. Likewise, you have choices like your Hecarims, like your Echoes, like you have your Jarvans. There is always a huge amount of versatility in high elo. It's all about your jungling skill issue and how greatly you can operate your champion. But those are the best junglers for patch 13.13. Best of luck for the end of the split. I will be available for you with all my jungle video courses on Virkayu.gg. Mobalytics has your best data and itemization. And if you want to understand how to truly outpath anyone, no matter what, click the video in the box on the top right.